Okay, so there we go. All right, everybody. Well, welcome. Thank you for making the effort of coming today. It's so lovely to see you all. Um, just a little background thing too. I will ask some questions as we go along just to keep everybody included. And anyone that hasn't, there is a chat on the bottom of your page. And if you just keep that open at the same time, then you can see the comments of everybody else and your own comments. So today we're going to look at taking back charge of your life and how to start placing your own needs and vision first. So in this masterclass, you'll discover that how you can finally feel really confident in yourself and your choices. And the real reason you avoid self-care practices and how you can learn to make it all a joyful habit. Also, how to create more space, time, and energy for the activities more aligned with your higher purpose. So you can finally experience more joy and live your dreams, like starting right now. So I would love to know if you could put in the chat box an answer from 1 to 10, how in charge of your life you feel. Are you the leader in your life, or are you holding back? Great. Alison says 7, Mara 8, Judy 7, Elizabeth 5. It's really good to know where we're at. So, and Laura 8, Karen 5. So we've got a starting point. We've got a point from which to move, to grow in our self-care practices in order to increase the the value that we show of ourselves really reflects in everything that we do. So now it's time to find your self-power and start to put yourself first in your life. So deciding to step into your own power and say yes to yourself. And this is not an easy thing to do. It takes practice, and it takes really learning to pause and weigh up what are the most important things to you. So today I'm going to share with you my 7 easy steps to taking back charge of your life. So number 1 is beginning your day with self-check-in, where you can ask yourself, what do you really need today? Then really listen to your heart. It's so important to check into our heart, our mind, our body, our spirit when we awaken, even before we do anything like our prayer and meditation, because it's acknowledging ourselves and really connecting to ourselves, our wants, our needs, our dreams, our desires, just checking into our body, our mind, our spirit. It's a really beautiful starting place for the day. Number 2 is to start to put yourself first, your needs, your dreams, and self-care. These all need to be prioritized. By learning to really put ourselves first, it just increases everything and gives ourselves the go-ahead that we have so much more value, so much more ability to do what we need to do each day if we're prioritizing ourselves. So, number 3 is to learn to care for, not caretake others. So to always pause and run your answer through your me first filter. You can pause and say, let me get back to you, instead of our usual response of saying yes and regretting it later, when we much more better served by just taking those minutes to reflect on, how does that impact on me? What else do I have planned? And to really taking that pause shows yourself that you have the value first, that you're in charge of your life and you're not being the caretaker of others, but we can all be caregivers. It makes such a difference. There's times when we want to say yes to everything, but it's still wise to pause and think, does that infringe on something that I've already made plans that were really important to me? Or does that other request take priority? We all know that there's certain times, like with grandchildren or something that really comes up that's an emergency, we want to say yes straight away. And that's different to when we need to run things through our filter first. So number 4 is to ask for help in our lives so that we are not getting overwhelmed with being the only one who can do things. So we need to let go of being the only one who's responsible for everything and delegate, share the work, ask for help without controlling others in the way that we ask, and not by putting guilt on them, but to ask with an open heart, so that we're just asking without any strings attached. And people know the difference to when we're manipulating as opposed to when we're just asking for help. So the next one is create more time and space for yourself. And you can prioritize the most important things each day. You can use a Google Calendar or other scheduling mode. And we can learn to not waste time or get distracted when we really need to be focusing on getting something done. And we all know how we can waste time: Facebook, Netflix, That just begins the list, doesn't it? There's so many ways that we distract ourselves. We start scrolling through this or that, checking our emails when we need to be getting something specific done, a task or something that we've actually got scheduled in our calendar that we need to get done. We can create so much more time for ourselves and the things that would give us joy if we get the things done that we need to get done without the procrastination and distraction. How many of us get distracted easily on a daily basis? Would you like to put that in the chat or not? Okay, so number 6 is saying yes to yourself. And although it's not always easy, but the more you do it, the more natural it becomes. And it is so powerful because it's so easy to get into the habit of denying ourselves, putting others first, and not saying yes to ourselves. We are so much more, it's just an easier thing to say no to ourselves. So we need to build this muscle of saying yes to ourselves. And there's so many things. So I would love you to put in the chat what you would love to say yes to yourself about. What have you been holding back on? What would you love to do? What would you love to spend more time doing? Alison says she'd love to lay on the beach more. Yes, I'm flat out standing on it. And I go so close every week. Elizabeth exercising. Yes. Judy fitness. Getting my little dog. Yes. Becky says I'd love to spend more time traveling. Yes. And Karen would like to go to more plays and spend more time with friends. Yeah. It's great to have these things that we would like to start saying yes to ourselves more with. So number 7 is, as you are creating more time and space, you will have more energy for activities that are aligned with your higher purpose and create better relationships. Live your life seeing your gifts and opportunities rather than the challenges and the obstacles. So, creating more time and space for yourself is just the most valuable thing that we can do. And I see Mara's saying more time for her business that's uninterrupted. Yes, we need to shut more than one door sometimes and keep ourselves focused, don't we? Yes. So I'd now like to ask you, what's the most challenging of these steps in your day to being in charge of your life? What do you find the most challenging of these things? Caring for others, but not caretaking? Starting with self-check-in? Putting yourself first, your needs, dreams, and self-care? Asking for help? Creating more time and space and stop wasting time? Yeah, saying yes or saying no. So Elizabeth says the morning check-in. And Alison, being able to say no. Yes. It's such a challenge. It's a muscle that we need to build. But starting with that pause and saying, let me get back to you, will allow us that space, that room to really be free to know that it's not always offending others. When we say no, sometimes we have to put something else first, namely ourselves. And Laura's saying asking for help, and when I don't get it, not feeling resentful. Yes. Also leaves me not wanting to ask again. I hear you, that's for sure. And Judy, not feeling guilty when I can't make it. Yeah, absolutely. And Karen saying the morning check-in and asking for help without feeling resentful when I can't get it. Yeah. Yeah. That is something that, and I think particularly as women, we are challenged with asking for help and not doing too much ourselves, and then coming back and saying, if only you, or something, and blaming others, but just to ask for help with no strings. It is a fine line, isn't it? And to ask it in a way that we know won't create resentment when we don't get the help that we're asking for. And just to be able to accept that that's just what is. Yes, Laura.
I just wanted to clarify. Can you tell us what number 7 was again? I didn't write it down properly.
Okay. Number 7 was, as you are creating more time and space, you will have more energy for activities aligned with your higher purpose. You'll also create better relationships, live your life, seeing your gifts and opportunities rather than the challenges and obstacles. So it's about really recognizing what is going to come to you as you create more time and space by not allowing yourself to dwell in the distractions. It allows us then the time, the space for the things that will give us the connections we need.
Got it.
Good.
I had only written down creating more time and space, and then that was number 5. So I'm like, okay, what did I miss?
Yeah,
So thanks for
it has
clarifying.
got some similarities, hasn't it?
But it's your point is that by doing that, then you are actually allowing, like, creating space for what you really want to be doing to come into your life.
Yeah. All those joyful things and the connecting things that are so important and so easy to bypass sometimes. Thanks, Laura.
You bet. Thanks for clarifying.
You're welcome. So with all of our self-care and all these things that we would be benefiting saying yes to ourselves with, what gets in the way of that? So it does require some deeper investigation into our limiting beliefs and stories which are under the surface, deeply hidden, but always affecting us and driving us. So these subconscious beliefs are usually the cause of us being pulled in too many directions. They cause us to repeat the pattern of being trapped in the cycle of pleasing everyone before ourselves. So we all, I'm sure, can think of at least one old belief that we've carried around about us being valuable, us being lovable, us being worthy of receiving. And that could be receiving love, it could be receiving money, our abundance. But these old patterns that are just so deeply ingrained in our thinking, just like a stuck record, they can just go on and on and on, and they stop us and block us. So the good news is that you do have an incredible inner guidance system, but accessing it often requires deep exploration and creating new beliefs. So I have designed a method of transformation through unraveling the stuck beliefs, showering them with truth, and actions of daily self-care. So I find this way is different to others that I've used too in the past with core beliefs that have been really stuck in me, because with this way of doing it, we write out all the stories that are the background, all the around one particular core belief usually, which is a negative belief that's holding us back in some way. And then we look at all the actual truths in our life that are really going to prove to ourselves that we are so much more than those beliefs. And we shower these truths. And these truths could be things like, I have maintained a loving relationship for 9 years. I've worked in the same job for 17 years. I have developed my own amazing business. All these truths really are self-acknowledgement, self-honoring, which sort of prove to that part of ourselves that these core beliefs, that we have moved past them, that they don't have the power. But we also need to take daily actions, which are often very spiritual actions, to really show ourselves every day how to prove these core beliefs wrong, to really just show them that you wouldn't be doing these wonderful actions every day if you didn't believe in yourself, if you didn't love yourself as well as you can on that day. So by making commitments to, on a daily basis, to take these actions, which would be things like starting my day with prayer and meditation every day, committing to moving my body with love and purpose, with some way that really I enjoy, not going to the gym because that's what everybody does, but doing what makes me really happy inside in the way that I take care of my body. And all the things that we need to do on a daily basis, and what we do throughout our day, that it might be about our focus. It might be about us saying yes and saying no. And how we finish our day before we go to sleep. How do we connect? How do we show our gratitude? So by doing all these actions that suit and which we choose, they also reinforce our acknowledgement of ourselves and our ability to really create more than new beliefs, but more like ways of being beyond these beliefs, so that we're not just human doings living out these lives that are just working along in certain ways because of all these beliefs that started so long ago. And there's other beautiful things, of course, that we can do, such as really developing a loving, caring relationship with our inner child. That is so beneficial, and showing that inner consciousness that you now see them, you value them, and you ask their permission for what you want to give to them. Like, may I hug you today? And ask them what they need from you every day. What do they need to show you? What do they need to do with you? So that they're not turning up in our lives in ways that are often inappropriate, when they feel like they need to stamp their feet, and when we do our ways of not accepting things graciously, we know it's usually not ourself at our age, but it's our inner child that's not getting its own way. So acknowledging them throughout our day can be so powerful. So setting up that beautiful relationship with your inner child. And there's so many wonderful methods of doing that, through meditations, through there's lots of lovely talks on YouTube, Spotify, whoever you use. And the Ho'oponopono is also a lovely system of gentle forgiveness and love. It's a lovely way of getting in touch with your inner child. Yeah, so today I'd like to now ask you, how much do you notice old core beliefs holding you back, stopping you from saying yes to yourselves, no to others? Can you identify the core belief? You don't have to share that, but you could. So we can be, sometimes it's really easy to notice. Yeah. So Judy's saying she feels like she's at about a level 4 of noticing, I imagine is what you mean. Alison says, I'm always scared that if I don't say yes, I'll be labelled as selfish and ungrateful. Yes. Mara says, I would always say yes. And then I got great at saying no. Now I'm seeking a good balance between both. Yeah. That's where that pause comes in, to give yourself that time and space to say, let me get back to you. I need to check on that or something. Because it's so easy to do one or the other. Yeah. Alison says that those are words I heard all the time growing up. And Elizabeth says, this week I've actually been noticing how I hold my breath and shallow breathe when I criticize myself. Mm. Yeah, that judge voice that we can all have within ourselves. What can we do with that judge voice? For me, learning about my sage side and the powers that the sage has, starting certainly with empathy and being able to have empathy with myself and with others, and being able to see others as a very young child. So when someone is starting to trigger me, if I can step into that part of empathy, and I can see them as the powerless child when they were needing something. And perhaps if I see them just playing with a puppy, receiving the hug from a loved one, I can have more empathy and understanding of where they're coming from, rather than just being thrown around by their demands and their triggers. And it takes me to a state of being equal. So the sage voice inside us can be so powerful if we allow it and if we feed it. Because we all grow up with this judge inside us that can be so powerful and can trigger so much in us. But by even saying, I've got this, you can leave this with me now. We don't have to get angry with it, but just let it go and take care of things in a way that we choose, by learning to respond to not only our inner critic, but to everyone that we come in contact with. So let's talk about our morning routines now, because often it is so easy to get distracted once our eyes come open. And yet it is the most powerful time, I think, probably the first 30 minutes of the day, when checking in with ourselves, what we need for the day, just asking ourselves, what do we need today? Are we feeling any discomfort or pain in our body? What do we need to do to take care of our body? What do we need that day with ourself? And then if prayer is our practice or meditation, moving into that so that our very first thing is connection with our inner power and our higher power. It gives us the connection, it gives us wisdom, it gives us that energy with which we can go higher, go deeper, and it gives us the ability to do everything in our day better because we can focus better, we can talk to others better because we've put ourselves first and our connections first. And I know for myself on those times where I've let go my morning practice for one reason or another, if I may have slept in or something, then it's really hard. I feel like I'm walking around sort of with a little sort of a cloudiness around me. I don't quite have the clarity and being able to clearly focus on what I need to do. It's a bit like being affected by a hangover state or something like that. So it's very important that connecting first thing in the morning and then making time to move your body in some way that you really enjoy for at least 10 minutes. And if you can do longer than that, that's amazing. And for me, I found walking is something that's really easy to do, but I know that it's not enough by itself. I also need to do other things. And I have done a variety of things over the years. I've done a lot of Qigong and Tai Chi. I love doing those things. They're very internally strengthening. And I like yoga too. There's so many things I really like to do that don't have to be competitive sorts of things. They're things that I feel nourishment from. So committing to caring for my body in that way and then nourishing my body with food that I know is really good for me. First thing in the morning after I've moved my body is is really so much more energizing than what I used to do when I was in my 20s and 30s, where the coffee and cigarette came first. And learning that the the right food at the right time is so much more energizing than putting it off to later. Um, I also find that journaling can be in so many different forms, but and I've recently started doing it by just, I guess it's art, it's drawing, and it's kind of like mindful drawing that's not trying to create a particular picture, but just drawing from your heart. And it might start by drawing a tree, but it's not like a beautiful picture of a tree, but it's just the expression of my heart. Because sometimes words don't come to me as easily as a way of expressing what's in my heart. And it's really empowering looking back at all the different sorts of journaling that I've done. And journaling also really helps me with the writing that I want to do. I can often go back to things that I've written in my journal, and it'll give me great ideas for posts, for blogs, for things like that too in my business. But I think about what came up in my heart in that early morning time before it's affected by all the day-to-day activities. I find it's really helps me. So now with that morning process, I'd like to ask each of you, what part do you find most challenging? And if you'd like to put that in the chat.
Now, what part of the morning do you find most challenging?
Oh, what part of your morning routine? Or even just doing it at all?
Mm.
Yeah, so Mara says keeping the routine in general. Laura says, yes, I agree, sticking to a routine. Elizabeth says the discipline of actually doing it rather than just getting started with activities. Alison says focusing on me, not picking up my phone to take care of others. I don't know how to not caretake. And Judy says getting out of my chair and not continuing to watch sunrise. Yeah. So what is the missing link then in this commitment, this discipline? What would make us encourage us to stick to a routine? Once we design what really works for us, and I'd like you to all consider writing down, you don't have to do it now, but writing down what you really need in the morning, what would really serve you well. If you had 30 minutes to give yourself upon awakening, what would be the best thing for you to do? And how can you get yourself to commit to that? What's stopping you? I can see Karen has said, my summer mornings are challenging to me with no routine. Yeah, when I'm working, I have a routine to get up and get ready for work. Yeah. So the sort of routine that I'm talking about here can happen always, unless we're traveling or something. What is that thing that stops us? Why don't we commit? I know for myself, Judy says, it's as though if I rush around, it makes me feel better, although I don't like to rush. Yeah. It's like I'm doing something if I'm rushing around rather than if I sit down and take time for my connection or whatever I choose my morning routine to be. I'm not being active. I'm not doing a particular thing that's productive, perhaps. I don't take nothing to do very much. Laura says, I get distracted. I need to be more committed to me time. And lately, I haven't had this routine in place. Mara says, I'm hoping moving away from family will allow me to better focus on myself. I hope I will stop expecting to be interrupted by my loved ones. Yes. Yes. And Karen says, my mindset will stop me from getting motivated. Depends on what I want to get done that day. I have to have a goal to set on what I want to do or get done. Yeah. Yeah. Alison says it would be easier if I lived alone. Yes. But others are proving that that's not necessarily so. Yeah. Karen and Judy are saying not necessarily. Yes, we can be self-distracting just as well when we don't have anyone around to say it's their fault. So, how do we really get committed to this morning routine that comes before everything else and everybody else? For myself, I had to really start seeing the value of it and to want that peace and the connection more than I wanted to be on that busyness cycle. I'm very, very, very good at being busy and getting nothing done and starting lots of things and running around and around. But if I make the choice to start my day with my morning routine, the value is so much more connectedness, so much more clarity that value of that. Yeah, Mara says I'm a greater starter of things as well. Yeah. So who's ready now to start tomorrow being more committed to themselves? Putting yourself first. And committing to your morning practice. Mara says, I am in 5 days. Okay, that's good. You're obviously moving back down south. Elizabeth's going to commit to that. And I have been recently because I have been seeing the difference. I have been really noticing when I don't do it. And I feel that when I commit, And when I take that time, even having a puppy to disturb me, as soon as she's been to the toilet, she knows it's meditation time and she's on the lounge with me. And so I can't use her as an excuse. She can lie still too. And it's just, for me, so important that showing myself the value of taking the time, even when it looks like it would be nicer to stay in bed or watch the morning show or check my emails or take care of somebody else. It is definitely more rewarding and more fulfilling. Great. So Laura said she's going to block off time in my morning for me time. I used to do this as part of my morning routine and stopped. That's great. So as we commit more and more to ourselves, let's really focus on these practices that we've talked about today. What's really important to us and what we need to do or not do in order to put ourselves first in our lives, to really be coming to that point where we can be saying yes to ourselves, where we can be saying no to others. I need to give that some thought so that we're not being pulled every which way by our unconscious old beliefs. Let's look at all the ways that we can focus on ourselves and empowering ourselves. So I'd now like to ask you, what has really opened up your heart or your mind today? What has been your greatest takeaway from all the things that we've talked about today? What's the main thing that you're going to do or change in your life? Yeah, so Elizabeth says actually committing to a 30-minute routine, including asking myself, what do I need today? That's lovely. Alison is saying, taking time for myself is a non-negotiable. I like that. It's strong. Laura says, well, I just said what I was going to do, had the insight that I really need to make my AM routine a priority. Great. Judy said she's going to commit, make a change and do it, to see the benefits of doing it and being grateful for doing it. So it's lovely to see that you're being inspired, thinking about what's going to be really important to you. And Karen saying she's going to create more time and space for herself, checking in with myself in the morning. Great. And Mara says committing to and understand and believe in the benefits of doing it. Yeah. That's so important, to really believe in the benefits of doing it. Yes. It's lovely. So before we finish up today, I just want to thank you all for your time, for the effort of being here in all these different time zones that we are. It's so lovely to see you here, because that is an amazing act of saying yes to yourself. And possibly you've said no to somebody else in doing this because you've put yourself first. So just for you who have attended today, I want to offer you the gift of a coaching session, which will be a full 60 minutes coaching session to perhaps work out what it is that you need to do to transform things in your life, or do some unraveling of some old beliefs that are blocking you. So that will be my gift to you. So before we close up today, I'd like to just bring us back to our hearts. And if you'd like to all just put your hand on your heart, and let's just take a deep breath. So in through your nose, holding, letting it go. So I am so grateful for each and every one of you coming today, and I'll be in touch with each of you too. That is just wonderful. Thank you all for being here today. Bye for now.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Janelle.
Janelle. Thanks,
you.
it was wonderful. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye,
Bye.
everybody.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Love you lots.
Bye-bye.
Good way to start the day.
Bye.